Hello, we're back. I'm Daniel. Justin is over there, and we're going to do a little bit of a deck retrospective from our Bless run, which just finished up on the channel. And if you haven't watched it, I recommend it because it was a lot of fun and really interesting. I think I learned a lot from it. We're going to talk about our decks here, but usually I like to keep the spoilers at a minimum from what happened in the campaign itself, but I'm going to waive that a bit here just because there's a few questions I really want to ask you, Justin, about what happened towards the end and like
hmm
what we did or didn't do with our deck building to deal with that. And I'll let you know when we get there. It'll probably when we talk
Sure.
about our leveled up versions of the decks. We'll be starting talking about our level 0 decks first, but there's I don't know, like I feel like Arkham, when we talk about decks, sometimes it's devoid of what happened in campaigns, and I just don't want to do
Yeah,
that. There's so much to talk about how we actually played these.
definitely, definitely.
Okay, so why don't you start us off? We're looking at your Yorick deck right here at the level 0 version, and just walk us through like what was your main idea of the
Sure.
deck, and how was it a blessed deck, and what what stayed, what didn't stay.
Yeah, for sure. So this was actually a little bit easy for me because I had Will York. I ran like pretty much this exact concept of a deck through the Innsmouth Conspiracy with Travis and Bryn.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew exactly where I was going to start, and the idea was just that Ancient Covenant is, in my opinion, the best bless card in the game, just because it's so good,
It
right? Like
is.
it says pass a test, and that means you don't need to like worry so much about it, especially when you combo that with Favor of the Sun, which Will York is very good at playing because he can recur it from his graveyard with his ability. So it kind of becomes one of those things where at a certain point the goal is to have one guaranteed pass each turn, which might sound pretty like low, right? Like I can just guarantee I'm passing one test a turn. In theory, you can do that every turn. Like everyone's
Mm-hmm.
going to pass at least one test a turn. But when you know that test and you can commit the exact resources to that test to ensure that it is the most successful test you can ever have, or alternatively, you can combo around that test, it's very easy to just like basically keep gathering as you're rolling further and further downhill. So my first experience that I put in here from the In the Thick of It was the Favor of the Sun and the Ancient Covenant. And because I had my good friend Carolyn here,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the Ancient Covenant, sorry, the In the Thick of It could have given me some horror trauma at the start, some mental trauma, which is very nice because it let me also then use your ability. Because one thing that I'm sure you're also going to talk about when we get to your level 0 deck is the surprising lack of economy. Because if you look at this level 0 deck, this is not a level 0 deck that I would recommend people play, because my only economy that is in this deck is actually Rite of Sanctification and Madame Lebranche. And she so much is an economy, but rather like a reward for spending all of your money,
Mm-hmm.
right? She is not an economy solution, just like how Taboo Dr. Milan is not economy. He's just like a bonus on top of everything else. But
Yeah.
somehow we were able to make it work for the first few scenarios. But this is something that I upgraded as we went, and actually did the Will York thing where I went to a lot of one ofs as we did, like the Wolf Mask turned into a one of. I ended up cutting the handcuffs. I got rid of the leather coats. But to me, this was the blessed deck from the get go. Like this is what I wanted to do because I had Favor of the Sun and Ancient Covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is like the payoff to the blessed deck. So that is kind of like where I was and where I wanted to be.
And getting that scenario one is really nice. You don't have to wait
Yep.
around for the payoff, and you had a lot of pieces to get there, right? So as far as putting blessed tokens in the deck, as you'll see with my Carolyn deck, there's not really anything there. Uh,
Mm-mm.
so it was mostly all on you. Uh, the ancestral token, right, was
Yep.
really good. I mean, we've talked about this before as being kind of what the missing piece was for a lot of blessed decks before Hemlock Vale came out. So, how'd it go?
And so Soken actually was not what I'm going to point to as the strongest bless enabler in my deck here. It would be Keep Faith, but notably the level 0 sorry, the upgraded version, not the level 0 version. Um, but I also had Blessed Blade, which I think is fine for, like, this was the concept when I had this original Yorick deck, was that Blessed Blade isn't here as a weapon, it's here to just drip feed, bless tokens into the bag.
Hmm.
But surprisingly, Keep Faith comboed with, when you eventually got the Sacred Covenant, was actually a lot to get things done. Keep Faith is a good way to just burst a bunch of a bunch of bless tokens into the bag, and it's really good for that.
And
Um,
it costs two at the level zero version. So there was kind of an interesting combo I think you did maybe a few times with the Rite of Sanctification itself. Later on,
yeah,
I think you added the bless tokens for free and then just immediately sealed them with the right. But maybe once like you used one right to play the other one or something, play the Keep Faith or something. I don't remember.
yeah, that sounds right. That probably happened at least once.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
uh,
like,
this
and this
works.
ancestral token is still very good. Like, it still added a lot of bless tokens,
Hmm.
but I actually don't recall it being the main bless enabler of our group, which is, it's kind of crazy. Once we get into like the talking a bit about spoilers, the interesting push pull that our decks had with the bless tokens were sometimes we were just stacking them. Sometimes like these decks were designed to like use the bless tokens. Like we were using the bless tokens as a resource, not as a way to just pass tests. And yes, I know I'm saying that Favor of the Sun, Ancient Covenant is a passing test, but it's a resource to automatically pass a test, right? That's a lot
Right.
different than just hoping your bless tokens make your tests easier, because in my opinion that does not make a blessed deck.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I think York is a very strong investigator for, any type of deck.
Yes, yeah,
But being able to recur the Rite of Sanctifications because they cost nothing was really nice. I liked that a lot.
yeah, and like I was saying, how the economy wasn't there, but we made it work. I think we both got a big. I got Rite of Sanctification. We both knew was a good card, but I think we really appreciated what it can do in a Yorick deck, and actually surprisingly be a large part of the economy, while also having that little drip resource economy that Carolyn can provide.
Hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, you look here. There's no emergency cash. There's no. I'm not sure what else you would run. Schaffner's catalog, maybe if you had more items or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, like those are
yeah.
traditional things you might go for. And
Well, I mean,
yeah,
even like stand together, no stand together, even either, right? Like that's a really easy inclusion for the Guardian Zero,
and I didn't even
and I
have
just
that
didn't even
myself.
think about it. Yeah,
No. Yeah, one thing I will talk about as we get along a little further is like how much stuff do you need to stuff into a deck to make it a blessed deck? You already sort of mentioned like Ancient Covenant, uh, plus the Favor of the Sun is kind of enough, plus the Generation, but that does take up at least the non-permanent cards, some things in your deck that you would normally have for some kind of a staple, but. We didn't really notice it. That was the part that was strange. Like, where's the card
yeah,
draw? Where's the resource generation? It's like, eh,
yeah. Just wasn't there.
yeah,
Oh yeah, and obviously I had short supply on Will Yorick. That was a big boon. I basically did get a like quote unquote draw 10 cards at the start, which meant like hitting the Rite of Sanctifications, hitting the Ancestral Token, hitting my weapons, and hitting the Favor of the Sun, just generally more reliable.
definitely. And so you only had one Favor of the Sun, and I don't think you ever went to two, right?
I went to two, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of a like, I hope I see it, but once
Yeah.
it started to get into play and being able to recycle it was really, really nice.
Yeah, because that's the nice thing. Is just without the Favor of the Sun combo here, you're just a Will Yorick deck, and that's still pretty alright.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, by the way, we played Return to the Forgotten Age, which does sort of it. We should talk about like, is there anything in here for dealing with the general plan of, don't kill things or evade
Yeah,
things?
that's the Wolf Mask, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, even just the Ancient Covenant, right? It's like, I guess we'll pass those tests and
Yeah.
not have to worry about too much otherwise. But
I I think it's one of those things where overall when you've played Forgotten Age more, you realize you actually don't need as much enemy evasion as people would originally say, right? Like it's good. Evasion is very nice for the Forgotten Age, but at a certain point, as you and I have played it so many times, you know that there's really only like two scenarios where you actually need to do that.
The tech here is handcuffs, honestly. I think that was
Yeah,
the real thing that you did to make sure that we could get through a different scenario.
yeah.
And yeah, it
It
was
is.
good.
I actually I like to tech more for the Brotherhood cultists than snakes at this point.
Hmm.
Because only one snake is a problem. The one that follows you. The other guy just chills. He's happy to just like lay on the ground.
And you're a survivor. Like there are ways to pass tests that you are not necessarily planning to pass in the first place. Lucky,
Yeah.
although it wasn't like a core part of the deck, I don't think. Uh, Plus all the other kind of things you had, the Wolf Mask, I suppose, makes it likely for you to pass. Like you have a three, it's not that hard to
Yep.
on standard to pass those tests. There's three
Yep.
zeros in the
For sure.
bag. It's not bad.
Yep.
It's just one thing I'm thinking about a lot these days of like how much deck space do you eat to do something that you don't really want to do or is taking away from your effectiveness in other ways. So
Hmm.
having that versatility to be like, okay, I'm using Lucky, I'm using Wolf Mask for the snakes, but also literally everything else in the game too. So it's doing
Yes.
double
Yeah.
duty. All right, I'm going to show my deck at level 0 now as well, and I'll try to be brief. Um, this is a Carolyn Fern deck that the whole point of it was to use field agents and heal them with Key of Solomon. Obviously, at level 0, I cannot do that. That's a lot of XP. But I did put in one copy of field agent, and I believe I saved the other one off of my In the Thick of It.
Hmm.
Uh, Being a blessed deck, I wanted to add some blessed tokens in, and it's kind of fun to say, hey, Book of Psalms can do it, can add 2 blessed tokens and heal horror, so there's a bit of a refund on the cost for putting into play. And I kind of had the funny idea of like this is the Carolyn Fern blessed deck is going to on a mission trip to Mexico to convert all of the Etzli to I
Yeah.
don't know what to whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you said before, if your therapist is trying to convert you, maybe go see a different
Yeah.
therapist.
You definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
uh, the Book of Psalms didn't last too long. It's a level 0 card. It really is. And
Hmm.
one thing I also kind of learned from you in your deck building, especially in this campaign, was there were some things that you just said these are level 0 cards and they can go. I generally don't like to do that. I like to have kind of all of the pieces working no matter what, and not really plan for some cards to be obsolete. But it's pretty clear that the Book of Psalms is uh there are some really good level 0 cards out there. This is not one of them
Hmm.
that needs to stay for the whole campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Especially at tour player, like at lower player counts, like it's harder to spend the action to play this, take the card to do it. I get what you're saying.
yeah, Carolyn, I think at 2 player needs to do a lot of healing that doesn't cost you too many actions. Just that's
100%.
it's just too tempo negative, I think. Anyway, it was there just for that, but I built the rest of the deck mostly to around blessed tokens, mostly for like absolution for horror healing. I haven't played the card before, so I might as well. You won't see it in the level the level whatever it's a 66 XP version of the deck because I don't think this card performed very well.
No.
Um,
No. It did not show up.
I know there's randomness around it. Like I could spend more resources just to do it, but to spend actions to add like sometimes a single bless token was awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Because it's awkward because it's not really good at either half of what it does. Right.
mm-mm.
It's not. It wasn't good token adder. Like it didn't add tokens well, and it didn't heal horror well. So it was just like, what am I doing? You know.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
does a good impression of a guts.
yep. The hope was like I could use it for healing the field agents sometimes, right before I
Yes.
get
Yeah.
into uh, the book, the Key of Solomon, and it probably stayed in the deck too long just because I was like, I need something. You'll notice that there's not any horror healing in this deck other than uh, the Liquid Courage, which I don't think ever saw play.
Yeah.
And then the Inspiring Presence was there to heal field agents too, but I didn't really have much for it. It was just kind of a thing that would happen because the ultimate goal here was to get Blessing of Isis into the deck and use that for horror healing more than anything else. So there's an eye towards that in this deck. Guided by Faith was Also, not long for this world. I don't think the card is good unless you have token manipulation.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really want. I mean, there's no real reason for Carolyn to use willpower instead. So, like, that part of the card is not doing much.
Yeah.
Adding the tokens in was not important in this team, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then getting the extra clue. You'll notice I don't even have deduction in here. It was really all about the field agents.
Hmm.
And the other thing was purified, which I think did more than I thought it was going to do. I'm more of a believer in this card than the other two Hemlock Veil Bless cards. So it didn't survive to the end either, but I might as well just
No.
like say I think it's good.
Yeah.
But
It's especially good if someone at your team is able to use Ancient Covenant, for example, to succeed by 5 very easily,
mhm.
right? Yeah,
But
I
it's
agree.
another card that I kind of learned that especially when you have 66 XP to spend, it can go. Like this is
Mhm.
an effect that is a pretty good level 0 card and can survive for a little while, but there are better things to deal with adding bless tokens, as you'll see later.
Mhm.
I guess I had Board of Radiance that did stay to the
Yep.
end. Wanted to make it a bless deck, so there you go. It's in the level 66 deck, so we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
I think almost everything else other than Persuasion is in the final version. So this
Mhm.
was just my way of dealing with enemies in case I needed to. Had a few good moments. I always like to have something, and I think it does the job, especially when you can pass the test pretty easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's about it there. So let's go over to TTS and actually look at where we ended up some 8 scenarios later with a lot of XP to spend, which
A
is
lot of
kind of
XP.
crazy. And I'm going to bring you back on
And
the
then
screen since you've been
and then I
gone
gotta
for a
come back.
while.
Hi, everybody. I should
Ah,
increase my brightness. I'm very dark. Actually, it's because my light's not on.
oh,
There we go.
hello.
There we go. Look at me now. All right. Why don't we start with your deck? Because we were just talking about your level 0. Why
Sure.
don't we start with yours?
Okay. So I've organized things by bless cards and then everything else.
Yeah.
So let's start with the bless cards because we saw some of them already, but not too much of the other ones. I think they all kind of turned into these. So the Ward of Radiances, I think, are just like they're a cheap card, right? I kept the other wards too, just in case. Maybe 4 deck slots for Treachery Cancellation is not great, but since I can't get level 2 Ward of Protection, this does a
Mhm.
reasonable impression. I think it
Yep.
only missed a few times,
I think only once.
maybe once. Okay. I,
Yeah.
I think
I
it
think you had a really good hit rate with it.
I think it's good. It's nice to. I think I mostly used it on me, but there were a
Yeah.
few times when I was like, we drew the wrong card. Like you drew the peril card and I drew the enemy or something, and
Yeah.
this was sitting in my
I,
hand, and I was like, no.
I think the issue too is that you and I actually were very independent as well. We kind of just both did our own thing because um I was close to you, like I wasn't miles away,
Hmm.
but I was still like on my own location a lot of times.
That's true. I think part of it was that sometimes I just needed to go out somewhere and get the clues and then come
Yeah,
back. That's it.
exactly. Yeah.
The nature of the scenarios. Okay, so Blessing of Isis, I put right away, I think, in the deck. I think I put both copies after the first
I
scenario,
think you did. Yeah, I think that was your first upgrades.
which is kind of crazy. I don't know if that's the right call, but it was. These are 2 decks with very good Elder Signs, Yorks especially,
Hmm.
and this is the way to put the Bless tokens back in if you draw 2. But I really wanted to try out, since I've never played this card outside of a token manipulation deck, like an All McBride deck. Like, would this work? Is this good enough in just a straight, I'm drawing cards or tokens and maybe I'll hit 2? And I think the answer was yes.
Hmm.
What did you think?
I mean, I thought it was great. I think that it's like without token manipulation, it's a little more swingy, right? Um, but we hit it. I think probably like I think you gave it to me like 4 times, and I think you got it like 3 or 4 times as well. So the question is like, is that enough? And I think the answer that we can both agree on was yeah, right? Like, how many times does Blessing of Isis need to hit in a campaign for you to be really happy with it? Considering the fact that the card itself is actually like, if you're not investing more into it in the forms of token manipulation,
Hmm.
it's actually like pretty low uh, to the ground in terms of what it asks from you, right?
Hmm.
3 experience, 2 resources, right? You probably, I think you even said this, you could have gotten away with one of them, but you really wanted to see this, right? So
Hmm.
it makes sense you got two of them. And I think because of that, it was out more just more commonly. It was out. And I think it ultimately meant that we were allowed to be a little bit more risky with things where I wouldn't, for example, use my favor of the sun for the first token. I would see like, I don't need to pass this test, so we might as well fish for a blessed token to see if I can then, save hit one and then we could do a favor of the sun.
Hmm.
But what that also means is that I could save my favor of the sun for things down the road. It's like that kind of like domino effect that card value provides.
Yeah. I think it was just fun also to have it, I like drawing elder signs, and when you can sort of make them happen more often, it's even better. Plus, you stop drawing, so it's kind of like a ancient
Yep.
covenant of my own, kind of.
Yep.
It asks a little bit more. I also think that, again, slight spoilers for City of Archives, it went pretty hard in that scenario in particular. I think we
Hmm.
got a lot of extra card draw because of this card with Azayithian.
Yep.
Um, Now I put those in the deck first. I think actually this is in almost in order. I think I put the Key of Solomon in as well, so I might as well talk about it. So Carolyn can take it since it heals horror. We only used, of course, the mode that was the top one because we never had a curse in the bag, and there's a little bit of a anti synergy with wanting to have you know bless tokens in the bag to draw with Blessing of Isis or other stuff because you're just removing them all the time. But that's a fair cost, I think, to pay.
Hmm.
Um, Removing just one to heal two without taking an action, especially since I get a resource off of that, I'm healing the field agent. It's like basically a free clue. Um,
Hmm.
Again, this became better once I started investing in more cards that generated blessed tokens or keeping them in the bag in the first place. So
Yeah.
I also will say that one of the we didn't see it every scenario, but when it didn't show up, it was noticeable, I would say.
Yeah. We missed it.
We missed it. I got a second one only at the very end. I probably should have invested in like a research librarian or something to begin with, since this was pretty important. At the same time, like we did pretty well even when it wasn't out there, but it was still like, it would be better if it was there.
Yeah, for sure.
So that brings me to Sacred Covenant, which I put in after this other stuff. It probably also could have gone in earlier. It felt a lot better once this was in play to
Yeah.
put the tokens back in, mine or yours, and it made the Blessing of Isis hit more. I think it made just everything better. I know
I
that
it, it
this card looks like it's worse than Ancient Covenant if you could take both, and it probably
No, it's
is,
very important.
but
It's
it's
very
very
important to
important.
take both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it was disgusting the amount of times I'd use the favor of the sun, ancient covenant, and I'm like, by the way, I don't actually need that blessed token. So you're like, all right, put it back in the bag,
Hmm.
right? So it's just like we didn't lose like any value from that. We just passed a test and kept the blessed token in the bag, and that's why it is so important.
Yeah, it is important. And this is probably another good time to say that we had a little tracker of how many times blessed tokens mattered in the sense of helped us pass the test that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I think you said at the end it was like somewhere between 9 and 11 times over the whole campaign.
Hmm.
I think I don't remember the actual number. It was something like that. Um,
Yeah.
and I think you said that's a pretty low number.
Yeah.
But we should also kind of say there's a little bit of a caveat there that sometimes we were, just not even drawing a token after the blessed token in the first place, right? So it could have been
Yeah.
a -5 afterwards. So we don't know actually. So the blessed
Yeah.
token
Very fair.
could have helped, but it's nicer not to find out, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's very nice not to find out.
Yeah. So I think the blessed tokens mattered kind of in all forms, but as you said before, mostly we were using them for these other effects like Key of
Hmm.
Solomon and just passing tests with Ancient Covenant and whatnot.
Yeah.
Uh, Before City of Archives, I put in Holy Rosary level 2. I think this did better than I thought.
Hmm. It's
It
very good.
added a lot of blessed tokens in, and especially some other combos we had to like make sure that I got those treacheries. Um, it's interesting. Return to Forgotten Age takes away a lot of willpower treacheries in the rest of the campaign, but not City of Archives. So this
Hmm.
was really quite good. I felt better with it just in general.
Yeah.
And then I also added around that same time Radiant Smites just as a replacement for Persuasion. I think the card's really good too. Actually saved our bacon in one scenario. It was actually really nice to have a way to get my number pretty big with the Holy Rosary. With we'll see the Well Prepared in a second. Um, but it's a good kill spell.
Yep. For sure.
That's it for the Blessed card. So honestly, if you look at everything I've got here, it's just a kind of a few cards.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about mine. It's actually kind of crazy. There's not many blessed cards in a blessed deck, but it's kind of it's different than curses, where it actually still feels like more. They feel more there. You know,
Hmm.
the blessed cards. It's very strange, but it is like I'm looking at this like, oh, it's 7 cards in my deck. That's not that many. Only 6 of them are in my deck.
Right?
But I was a yeah, and like you have 8. You have what? You have 7 in yours, right?
Yep. Uh,
Oh no, you have 9.
Nine.
9. Still, but still, like that's like that's only a third of your deck, and it still felt very, very bless oriented.
Hmm. And it was successful in terms of we had the bag full of blessed tokens often, or
Hmm.
they were sealed on all of your cards. Yeah, I should also mention the somewhat of an anti-synergy. Like if I played this again, man, I mean, Ancient Covenant is so good and Favor of the Sun,
Hmm.
but sometimes I was thinking, man, I can't draw my blessed tokens. They're all sitting over on your player mat.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and it's a shame too because they were very important to be on my player mat.
mhm.
Um, but it was a little bit of a non-bow with that for sure.
And yet I still think it performed
Yep,
very importantly.
agreed.
So
Yep.
okay. Rest of the deck, I can kind of fly through some economy options. So I mentioned that I had nothing to get economy, and then later I was like, well, I have so much XP, I might as well put Stand Together in. So, here's two
Yeah.
copies of that. The card's just, good. Thorough Inquiry, I think, is a really, really fantastic card because it gets you to find those cards that you didn't have in the opening hand. And if you don't need it, it is often in this campaign of manual dexterity.
Yep.
I can't get over a few of those scenarios towards the end where I just played this and I was giving you cards or me cards, and it just got me somewhere. And I was like, I am not afraid anymore because now I have the cards to deal with the problems that I know are coming up.
Yeah.
It's very strong. To like two
Yeah.
actions is fine. It's better to spend actions having something to deal with the problems ahead rather than just go in alone.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that as your deck gets more experience, thorough inquiry actually just gets better because you're going to draw like in some cases 12 experience worth of
Yeah,
cards.
that's true. Okay, my only other economy I think was Ever Vigilant, which another thing I've been testing out for the last year or so is like, how good is this card if you don't have Stick to the Plan?
Hmm.
And I think if you have other card draw, it's really good.
Hmm.
Carolyn wants assets in play, especially in this particular deck, and I don't think I ever had a problem playing this and getting value out of it. Like I mostly did drop pretty early, I got lucky, but one copy of it in this deck, I I mean, using some of the blessed tokens off of your Rite of Sanctification, sometimes I was playing some assets that were otherwise very expensive for next to nothing.
Hmm. Definitely.
So I'm happy with that. I was even toying around with the idea of just spending 6 XP towards the end to to just buy Stick to Plan and stick this and nothing else on it.
Yep.
Instead, I got Soul Sanctification, and there's a few other healing cards in here now. Fearless level 2, you might have seen, but I've never played with Soul Sanctification. But we had so much XP, I said I might as well try. I got to try it again sometime because it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe because we had too much trauma already. Maybe because I didn't have that much healing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's also because like it was actually like better to heal your field agents than us the majority of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I know you did get 2 charges on it that were never used.
That's the other
I
problem is towards the end of the campaign, I already had really good ways of passing tests. So,
yeah.
yeah, like this would be good for random tests that from treacheries that I couldn't otherwise deal with, but that just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So other cool combo here sitting in the middle, well prepared, I think is an excellent card if you know what you're doing with it.
Mhm.
And in this case, it was I had a lot of assets with 2 icons or even more, especially this story asset, which gives you +3 to willpower or agility tests. So that's just really good. Key of Solomon also gives you +3 to intellect. So uh,
Yeah.
I don't know, like this just got a lot of use. I was very happy with it.
Yep.
Hard to
Yeah.
say
I mean, you
no.
also used it on the Relic of Ages too.
That's right. That's just +3 in
Yeah.
general. So it's a good card in this campaign. Hey, which campaign did it come out in?
Wow, look at that.
Okay, so the field agent thing. So I've got a couple of allies in here. Actually, quite a few. I think I had 2 copies of Jeremiah at one point, and I kept threatening to take him out, but then I only went down to 1, and I never took him out. I think he's good. Just card draw is good. There's a lot of even cards in here. But the idea was to put trusteds on the field agents and just keep healing them. And I think this is just good. Like, I don't
Yep.
know what else to say about that. I could have upgraded those to the star or something, but I don't think it was necessary. And I healed them with the Inspiring Presence, with my Elder Sign. I think the upgraded Inspiring Presence is really good. And it's not even just for the extra heal of the damage. That didn't matter that much. It's the extra icon that I loved.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very useful. And then Garish, he also saved our bacon.
Yeah, it's and he's a good because we had so much XP. He was a good late campaign just as a one of, you know.
Hmm.
Like you didn't need him in play, but when he was there, we were like, "Hey, Garish, thanks for helping."
Hmm. Yep. I think that's about it. I mean, the magnifying glasses are good. Like that's just it was a good deck. Like I had a lot of fun playing it. It worked. The only thing I wish I would have done differently was, well, I probably shouldn't have put this in, but I'm not sure what else with all the XP it could have been. You can
Yeah.
even see and observe down at the bottom of the screen here. I might have. We toyed around with the idea of like, do I put in Dynamite Blast at some point?
Yeah. I
And
think I think what happened was we had a rough scenario too, just because the pieces weren't there and like the setup was a bit slow on both of our parts,
mhm.
and then it was like, oh no, we're actually fine.
That's the part. There was a lot of variance in this campaign from scenario to
Yeah.
scenario with like, what do we need? And that's like part of what the scenarios are supposed to do. They're supposed to challenge you in multiple ways. And maybe I could have had one more something. Maybe one copy of Dynamite Blast, maybe one other thing. Because as you can see when we said before with your deck, like there's not much here that's, hey, how do you deal with, TFA in general? There's nothing to evade. We're just relying on, maybe a good evade from a well-prepared Veda or something. Um, I don't know what that would have been, but I feel like one more card just to protect a when we get into a tight spot would have been good. On the other
Mhm.
hand, we crushed it in basically every other scenario. So
Yep.
I don't know. Do you have any other
Well,
comments on the deck or what you thought?
uh, I guess the question I had a question, especially this is more of the level 0 deck, but it's kind of true going up. The balance of bless, like having bless cards in your deck, but also Carolyn healing horror cards in your deck.
Yeah.
How do you think this deck would fare without something like Kia Solomon, where it's kind of like the merge of the two?
So like before Feast of Himmelach Vale came out, basically.
Yeah. Or even if just like the card was tabooed to be forbidden, like
Yeah.
how do you think this card would fill the gap that is Key of Solomon? Because you had to walk a very thin line of Bless, but also Carolyn. And I think Key of Solomon was a good way to make that work. But do you think this deck, how do you think this deck would function without it? And what do you think it would look like?
So we kind of know what happened when it wasn't in play. And
Hmm.
I think it's not a blessed deck anymore.
Hmm.
I think it does not really need. I mean, the other payoff is Blessing of Isis, right? So maybe screwing around with the Book of Psalms at level 0 a little bit more would
Hmm.
kind of do it, but I feel like with 2 players, you said before, that's just too big of an ask. So I kind of would pivot to non-blessed deck. Like you do the Peter Sylvester thing, you do the Ancient Stones
Hmm.
thing if you really want the field agent thing to go off. And I I'm not sure. I guess I didn't talk about the weaknesses that I had here, but like Rational Thought was so easy to get rid of when it was just
Yes.
2 turns of Key of Solomon.
Yeah, and not even actions, just
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I think this card is actually really scary for Carolyn if you don't have good ways of healing burst horror. And
Hmm.
I might add that the hypnotic therapy I thought was actually quite strong with the Q Solomon around as well. I when I played Carolyn before, I don't think this card has gotten a lot of play, maybe because of just how things worked out. I've played it quite often, and I thought the extra horror heal was really good. So
Hmm.
um, I don't know. It's a
I,
really good
I
question.
I think you're right with Blessing of Isis. What I imagine would be is that this would be like all of McBride Zero would be here. It would be
Mm,
like you said, there'd be some token fishing to make up for the healing, like to make up for the this.
hmm
I think field aging could still be a thing that can happen, especially with like inspiring presence. And I think there would be like other horror healing you could find that we know exists. But I do agree that it's probably Blessing of Isis, and then all of McBride Zero might make a home here.
that makes sense, and that at least would be. I think it's an ally slot, right? I did have 2 charismas, as you can see, so I might not
Yeah.
have like the Jeremiah or
Yeah,
something,
Girish might not have made it, but
right? Um, yeah, no, I mean I loved this deck though. I thought it was very fun to
yeah.
play, and it felt very powerful. Uh, Even at 2 player, like the field agents kind of were like, hi, I'd like to get more clues, and there just weren't any.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes we overestimate how many clues you need to get in scenarios. Some of them you need a lot, some of them you don't. Scenario
Hmm.
3, Threads of Fate, we cleaned up. You need a lot of
We did.
clues for that one, but we were
We
good.
crushed it. Yep.
We had tons of time left, so do not underestimate a Tesla's clue, but also
Hmm.
one that does not even take an action. It is
Yep.
this is deduction.
Yep. That is your deck's positive tempo. And
Hmm
it's funny because actually you can look at our second scenario, and part of the reason it was so tough is it took us a while to get there. I also think because we were under the assumption, I think we both made a mistake in that scenario where we forgot you don't need to have that clue. That's that location clear of clues to
Oh yeah,
explore.
yeah. We
So we
just
were
sat
doing a
there.
bit more than we needed to. Yeah, but um,
I also
it's still like the tempo that these provide was very nice.
hmm I also think that Return to Forgotten Age as a whole is easier, but there's a couple of slight differences in that scenario. Number two, they give you an extra location, so it is harder to get out, and it's
Mhm.
harder because they throw some pit vipers in the way as well. I got poisoned, I think,
Yes,
2 or 3 times, maybe two,
yeah, yeah.
and that was fine, right? We had the medicine to compensate, but we maybe were playing in a way that was like, oh, we got plenty of time, and then suddenly realized, oh, there's a lot of locations to run through.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's about it for my deck. I think I didn't talk about every card here. I do think that the story cards did really well. I think the Expedition Journal was uh, good when I was going off on my own. There was no
Mhm.
other way to get extra actions in this deck, and that is actually kind of notable. But I got them essentially with the extra clue from the field
Yeah,
agents, so it's kind of worked out that way.
yeah.
All right. Oh boy. Okay.
All right. Let's go on overall yonder to the Will Yorick deck. And let's start with our blessed cards, which you actually might notice are like the exact same cards that were in my level 0 deck.
Yep.
I upgraded the key fates as stated. I think that this is a very nice upgrade. Uh it plays like a billion times better than it reads.
It
It's
does.
it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so your
Um
elder sign, let's just point that out, right?
yeah.
That we were hoping to trigger more often because of the blessing of Isis, but it could happen anytime. Returning a keep faith from the discard pile to your hand and then just playing it again
Yep.
because it costs nothing is incredible.
Yeah, it costs like literally nothing. It's just the card in your deck, which is like wild. And I know people because I remember some discourse being like, why would I want to play this when I can still just play Tempt Fate to get the 3 blessed tokens and a card?
Hmm
Yeah, but there's also 3 curse tokens, which really ultimately do not matter in the long term, right? You'll probably pass more than you'll fail with those curse tokens,
hmm
but you don't need to. You can just like play Keep Faith and just like get the part that you want +1, right? It's a very nice upgrade. But yeah, it's actually kind of funny. I think I ended up cutting an ancestral token because I think I had 2 in my level 0 deck.
You must have,
But
yeah.
this is all I had for Bless, which is kind of crazy for a Bless run. Oh
Plus the
yeah, and the
blessed
Bless
blade.
Blade, sorry, and
Yeah.
Bless Blade. But I did end up stopping playing this later on. this guy just didn't end up making it. So even more, all the cards here from my start are there. And while Jacob Morrison has bless on it, he's not really a bless card. He's like just like a payoff for it.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of funny how little he actually mattered. Um,
Yeah.
if this was like a honestly, if this was a Peter Sylvester or like an upgraded like if this was a Jessica Hyde, I think it would have been better. I really like Jacob Morrison as a card. I think he is very good. The Never Fail Survivor build is one of my favorite builds to play in Survivor because it just feels very powerful to not be scared of anything the game can do to you, right? For different reasons than Mystic Investigators are.
Hmm.
Um, and I like him as just another lucky that I can use. And then with the Favor of the Sun, it's very easy to ready him. So I don't really consider him to be a bless card, even though he has bless. Because most of the time I play him is in like literally in Ashcan Pete, where I'm readying him with my ability.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Um, but with in this deck, I think it did an okay job, but I could have had better allies for sure. And I think I just put him in here because of the whole Favor of the Sun thing.
Yeah. I think for 3 XP, it's maybe not as much as you'd like, although I think the soak is at least reasonable to have like 2 and 2 rather than just one on either side with Peter or Jessica. But I don't know. I mean, you're right. It wasn't like you were using him every single round.
No, yeah. Yeah, there were turns when he was just hanging out vibing because again, once you can just pass a test at will with Favor of the Sun,
Hmm.
it's a lot easier. I'm gonna just skip my damage section for a moment, and we're gonna look at the one economy card I added earlier in the form of I've had worse. Um, and this was good. I think I've had worse as a great economy card. I think it's good for. It might seem counterintuitive to play in like Tommy and Yorick, where you have ally soak or asset soak that you're looking to destroy, but because you're already planning on soaking so much damage anyway,
Hmm.
it's nice to have that ability to sometimes turn that soak into resources. Because this card um, is an economy card, but it's also just it's soak, right? It's just one of those things that you can just do turn your soak into resources for a turn.
I think somewhere in the middle of the campaign, you mentioned something like, "This isn't that kind of Yorick deck." There
Yeah,
isn't really,
no,
teddy bears
it's
and leather
just
coats anymore. It's
yeah,
just this and
Jacob
this.
and this, and I never wanted to actually defeat them. I liked them in play because they were well. Jacob didn't do anything, but Ancestral Token when it was in play, it did do a lot of work for me,
Hmm.
which was really nice. Um, I had 2 copies of Backpack, and I wish these were any other card. Um,
Tell us more.
the yeah, these were mostly here because, as I mentioned earlier in this video, my Will Yorick deck that I ran the first time played this card, right? So I was just like, okay, this is the deck. I had Backpack. I remember it being good there, but this deck was different than the other deck. As you can see, I actually don't have a lot of items in this deck, right? I have one in my Bless package
Hmm.
up here, and well, two with Blessed Blade. And then Fire Extinguisher, Derringer, Wolf Mask, and Backpack. There's like not much. Don't worry about these cards down here. They weren't added until the final scenario. We're just gonna flip these over for right now.
Yeah.
But like there was nothing relevant for me to hit, and playing Backpack was actually a waste of time. Um,
That's wild, right?
yeah, it's wild, and it shows I think the depth that Arkham Horror can have, and why I'm such a big. I like to say that Arkham at this point it's going to change when Current is a thing. Current is going to change this discussion, but Arkham at this point with a full card pool in 2025 is not play every staple. It's play the combo of your deck, right? And your deck will be better because of that. And if this was something else, like I don't know what off the top of my head, but if I was just something else here, I would have been much happier with this deck. I wanted an emergency cash. I think if you're playing Backpack, you want to be able to grab economy, so you're going to want
Hmm.
emergency cash to make that happen. And ultimately, this was just a blunder I made because the original deck had it, and this one it just carried over into that.
So let's talk about the the damage output itself. So I don't think you had fire extinguisher until the end as well, right?
Yes, yeah. Um, and this is one of those things where, like, my first version of this deck, it had 2 knives, Blessed Blade, 2 Derringers,
Hmm.
right, of the upgraded version. And the damage output was fine. Like, it was good, and it was good then, and it was good here. But it was one of those things where it's just like, uh, having a more consistent, reliable form of damage that I could just use, while boring, was the nice choice. And I was kind of spooked by our penultimate run of the Depths of Yoth, where I kind of got a little bit bodied by things that happened. And I got a little bit scared, and I was like, okay, I think I need to put in just a consistent weapon to fight with, because I don't want to have to deal 12 damage to an enemy to kill it, right? Because that might have happened to me in the final scenario. Oh, sorry, in Depths of Yoth.
Oh no.
Uh, and it did make the deck better, because just having a machete as Will Yorick was nice, right?
Hmm.
Like, just having like something that I could do things with. And then also Yorick can use the discard evade very nice on this. Um, but I think before that, the Derringers were good output for damage, right? The knives, I think, did their job for what they wanted to do. Um, but I just got a little bit spooked. The sweeping kicks, I love sweeping kick.
You'll always
Will
play
York,
sweeping kick.
yeah, it's. I was playing toe to toe up until like almost the final scenario too,
Hmm.
just really good for that. But when you get so much experience, it's easy to just put in upgraded cards over your level 0 cards, right?
Yeah.
And then the vicious blows were also just, they're vicious blows. They're just more damage.
So let me just say one other thing about this, the kind of damage output. We had some very strange scenarios where there literally, this is City of Archives, we drew 2 enemies.
Yep.
I can't explain it, but we did.
Yep.
It was a walk in the park. It was a very empty city.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, when you talk about being spooked by the Depths of Yoth run, I think we maybe got spooked by the City of Archives run too, where it was just like, who needs to deal with enemies? There aren't any.
Yeah.
But Depths of Yoth is a very different scenario, and I mean, I could see, the bottom action on Fire Extinguisher being very good there. And I don't know, like there's so much variance in this game, which I think is good. It's part of the design, so you can't just immediately say, I need this, 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 and this, and then I'm done for every scenario. But it's sometimes tough to learn the right lesson from what the scenario you just played. Like, is this a
Yeah.
weakness of the deck, or was it bad RNG, or is it just that scenario, but you don't need to worry about it again?
Yeah. And then it's one of those things where you have to look in like the grand picture, right? Because um, a slight spoiler, like, I'm not going to go into detail, but Depths of Yoth turned out to be a blip, right?
Right.
Like, but we didn't know that until we also then played the final scenario,
Hmm.
right? So there's that to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting, but I think this would be a good tech card just for that scenario, or maybe just like lots of scenarios. I think it's a very good effect to have when you need it.
Yep.
And if you don't need it, then great, don't discard it.
Yep. Yeah. But I mean, like, I think with Depths of Yoth, it would have been great. Evade the pile, kill someone in the pile, bring it back, do it again,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
Yep.
Oof.
All right. Wolf Mask is fine. I think it's okay. It was okay here. I ended up going down to 1. If I had got more experience, this probably would have been cut next.
Hmm.
Um, it's nice in Yorick to be able to play it, but I never really felt like it was worth the action to play. And it was kind of just here because overpowers are nice, but you know what's nicer than overpower? An overpower that draws you cards. Like +2 fist is just nice for that. Um, yeah, I can talk about these are just like skills that draw cards. My working theory for Last Chance that I've said from Drowned City is that you can play it in any deck. You don't care if you commit it for 1 icon, it's good, and it is good.
Yes.
It's just card draw. It's just like, um, as Bryn said when we were playing on Wednesday last week, it's just a big middle finger to Red Unexpected Courage. It's actually the last card in this cycle that's actually nice for it. We had Luckies up here. Um, yeah, just again, more protection. It's kind of like your Warder protections, right? Where
Hmm.
it's just like protection for the team. And then before we talk about the 2 face down cards that I was told you to ignore, Elaborate distraction. I actually spent 2 XP to put into the final scenario. Um, and yeah, these would have been good in Depths of Yoth as well. Um, but the fun thing about when you get so much XP is that you can actually like morph your deck. I ended up cutting a tarot card
Yeah, Ace of Swords,
because
right?
of yeah, the Ace of Swords because of the tarot card that we had in our because we rolled random tarots for the start of this. Which if you also look at my upgraded cards, like you, I bought the Observed. We bought them before scenario 4, right? We got them in Heart of the Elders, so we were
Yeah.
able to experience it twice. And then I bought a Charisma. Yes, because I have Ishtaka, but also because it was a potential option for me to remove because we had the devil where we had to remove some of our slots from the game.
Yep.
And that's why I bought the occult reliquary to just give myself an additional arcane slot and then cover it up.
Yeah.
So when you get that much experience, you can kind of just do what you want.
Which is nuts. But
And then, speaking of doing what you want, I wanted to try something out because, yeah, ample supplies is basically just bad investments. But do you know who in Survivor would love bad investments? Will Yorick. So I thought, why don't I give this a shot? And if I only run cornered, is that able to work? Because my theory is that worst case with Will Yorick, this is just if you don't have anything else to activate with his ability, is a free resource. So
yeah.
his ability is basically just like gain a resource, right? Like that's what his ability becomes. Um, but then if you combo it with just cornered, which Yorick can also play very easily because of his short supply, where he can find in his opening mulligan,
Hmm.
ample supplies can actually like generate a lot of resources for Yorick over time, which is a really nice way that having like it's why like Schaffner's was so nice in Yorick. Having asset-based economy is really good. And I do think that ample supplies is going to be very strong asset-based economy for Will York going forward. I think you'll want to run it in a deck that can discard, but luckily there's been a bunch of discard tools that just came out that are going to be really nice for him.
Yeah, I think that this card, I mean, it's fun to add this into this deck, but in a York's deck that cares more about, I don't know, spending money, like more expensive events like these elaborate
Yep,
distractions you put in, this makes more sense, right? But before
yep.
this whole package came in, I don't think you were like were running much other than in terms of expensive things other than like replaying Derringers or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, like the Joe and the sorry, Jacob, Joe, Jacob, and the ancestral token. Like those are the things that cost 3, but those were like set and forget. It was the Derringers and the
Mm-hmm.
Favor of the Suns that I
Ah,
was
right.
looking at looping. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. I forget how this one doesn't give you any money, but the Favor of the Moon does, which is
yeah,
really nice.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, this one asks a bit of you, but you know, 2 resources is fine. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember
That's my deck.
what you removed for the other 2 cards. So there was a
I
the
think it was the other ancestral token,
okay.
and I don't remember for these, but I can check with the power of Arkham Build.
Yay.
I
Um
cut, yeah, the 2 knives and a toe to toe as well.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, for the fire extinguisher.
turns out the last scenario of I mean maybe it was just the way we were playing or the fact that we had killer decks, but it was a walk in the park. It really
Yes, it was
was.
very. It was.
It went so quick. And you did have to deal with a big enemy, but you took him down like a chump.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Yep.
Especially after because we recorded it right after the Depths of Yoth run, and we were both glad we did because that Depths of Yoth was a very harrowing experience.
It was. I'm impressed with the design of the game where sometimes even on standard difficulty you just get a bit bodied. Again,
Yep.
it wasn't that it had a bad resolution. It was just I don't know. It was just a lot that happened where we were like, "Huh, is this really happening? Like anything we
Yeah.
throw at the game, it's just like absolutely not." And I don't just mean the
I mean,
token
yeah,
pools.
yeah. It was. It was. If you haven't watched it, you definitely should. It was great. Good. It was in retrospect. It was a great run. And it does show the play replayability that Arkham provides, which is why we're still playing the game to this day.
That's right. And I
Yeah.
totally agree with your point of the decks these days can and maybe should be just packages of whatever you're trying to do. And you can play York 10 different ways, and you don't have to just rely on exactly the same cards every time. So this was a great showing for, I think, exactly that, that you didn't have to have all of the you know, teddy bear, leather coat,
Yep. Yeah.
stuff going on, even no Schaffners. It worked out very, very well. And
Yep.
I mean, yeah, you're abusing some combos, but that only gets you so far.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah, you need to have things that make abusing the combo worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some decisions to make, like whether or not to use it on a particular test or wait for maybe Blessing of Isis, or maybe you have a more important test that you need to auto succeed on. And
Yep.
again, no other spoilers for Depths of the Yacht, but that was like a tension. It was like, okay, I need to save my Ancient Covenant for one of these tests. So how do I deal with the other tests?
Yep. Yep.
Um, I mean, it was a good deck. It was very comfortable to sit back and sort of watch you pilot it and say, okay, you got the enemies. It should be fine.
Hmm.
But I will also say it was a bit. I was biting my fingernails a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you want to talk about your graveyard ghouls too? Because it kind of showed up at some inopportune moments.
Oh yeah, like the time when I drew it for my last action, that was pretty funny. Um, so yeah, the hard thing about this deck with Graveyard Ghouls too was just the once again the flavor of the sun and like the Derringer thing, where this is why firearms are a lot harder to play because this guy is now here, right? So like having just like a melee weapon to deal with him is a lot nicer. Um, and whenever you then draw like an extra enemy if you're falling behind, just getting that Graveyard Ghouls is like, okay, well I need to kill you first because you're how I kill these other guys because you are actually the Derringer in my discard pile,
That's
and my
right.
plan was to get this guy out of there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool to watch, just sort of okay making those decisions because you didn't get off so easy most of the time when he showed up.
No, yeah, no, it was very much like, oh yeah, because actually in that one when I drew him at the for the last action, that was Threads of Fate, and I didn't have a weapon, and I didn't actually have a weapon in my discard pile either, if I remember correctly.
That's
I
right.
was just like, oh no, well, we're gonna have to get through this, and you just have to believe and
I remember
focus
you
up.
asked me, "Hey, does persuasion work on weakness enemies?"
Yeah, yeah, I remember that too. Yeah,
It's like
I think I ended up just punching my way through them. Right?
you did.
Yeah, you just kind of have to. Yeah,
Oof. Uh, but surprisingly, again, I also like to think of Arkham these days as you make up some of your tempo in different spots. Like if you can't get through something very quickly now, you need to get it later, and we did.
yeah,
So it was great. All right, well,
yeah.
those were our decks. You'll notice there was an extra weakness there, but didn't matter too much, right? This guy.
Oh yeah, no, I think I lost experience for him once, and it was okay.
Yeah.
Because that was from the Boundary Beyond flip, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
And of course, we love Bury Them Deep in a campaign that you are playing this a bunch of different scenarios. Like I think you hit it every single time.
yeah, I think I got it, and then I like also we had like the interactions where like I could have technically buried deep one of those Vengeance Zero snakes because it stays in the victory display even if the enemy leaves.
Yeah,
Because you don't attach that enemy. You don't attach to the enemy. You just add this card and this card and the enemy to the victory display, which is kind of fun.
hmm Can you imagine if it did attach or something and you like got it back to your discard pile or something? That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Those snakes are also good design. I was scared of them. I was really scared of those snakes. That come back because they come back in a pack.
What if I don't want to spoil too much for the future, but there's a very similar design to those guys in Drown City,
Ooh.
and they're a nightmare. So look forward to that, everybody. It's very impressive. I think those Vengeance Zero Snakes are some of the best enemy design they've ever made.
Yeah.
I also want to talk briefly about Observe, just
Sure.
very quickly. Observed is a lot better when the Fool is taken out of the pool.
Ha.
Um, because there's a lot of really strong tarots, then a lot of people just end up taking the Fool when it shows up to pay Observed back. And I think that if you just put your hand over the Fool, you'll do better because of it with your Observed choices.
I would only take the fool if like the other two were boosting stats I don't care about.
Yep, yeah, I think that's the right way of going about that.
Yeah. The other ones are really good and we made good usage of this card and I mean, we crushed it the campaign. It was very strong. So kind of going back to our video from a long time ago about, hey, our blessed decks cracked now. This is not like these two decks were not, well, mine more than yours. Not like the prototypical let me abuse the blessed tokens as best I can. I mean, yours a little bit, but not like disgusting or anything.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the floor is very, very good. Even if all
Mhm.
you do is just pass tests, it's not worth those cards in your deck, but it's a nice bonus to everything else you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, do you have any other last thoughts on doing a blessed? I hate to call it a challenge run, but when we talked about doing this, I said we got to do Forgotten Age because we think that we can do very well even in a hard campaign. Again, turns out
Mm.
Return to Forgotten Age is not as difficult as the first one, but even so,
I think yeah, no, I think again, like the when we call them challenge runs, it's just like it reads better on YouTube, right?
sure,
Because like even like the curse one is I never view that as like a challenge run. That's just it's like a stipulation run, but that doesn't roll off the tongue, you know? Um, but it was a very fun exercise, and I
yeah,
do hope we revisit the paradoxical again one day, but it's uh it's tough, man. Mystics.
yeah,
it's
you're right. They're
yeah,
not challenges. They're more, I don't know, like a
exercises. It's like a
exercise.
little
Like I was
yeah.
trying to discover some things about the card pool. Like when we
Yeah.
say something about, hey, this is a blessed deck, what does that mean, right?
Mhm.
And as you can see, it isn't your entire deck. Like it seems to be that you can do, again, comparing to the other two, maybe curses I think about more carefully as a comparison, but um,
Mhm.
I could run a crap ton of cards over here that had nothing to do with blesses
Yep.
and still feel like we were adding a lot of blessed tokens in. So I don't know about the um, I don't know about the curse one. Like so my Daisy deck, it was built around, a few cards that had to do with curses for sure. So if we ever had a scenario where we didn't get the curses in the bag, we are kind of SOL um,
Mhm.
for damage dealing, anyways. That just never happened because we had Amanda. That's just a
Yes.
complete impossibility.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. I'm curious how that curse run would have gone without Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I would load up the bag with 10 curses on turn one, which is like, I mean, if these blessed decks could do it, they would love to do that.
Right.
Yeah,
But even if I didn't hit any of those bless cards on turn 1 or 2, I don't
yeah,
think it mattered.
you,
Right.
yeah, because you still had your field agent and all that, right?
Yeah, we could get there.
And
And
like you hit like Gurish, you hit Jeremiah, you hit a magnifying glass, you can do things, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's why, like, again, the Daisy deck was sort of a challenge because it was like, okay, this is not the right deck to fight, but maybe it could be by using all these cards available to me. And this is kind of it's not the same because I'm doing regular investigations, and Carolyn was quite good at that. I remember at the beginning you said, hey, Carolyn does Book v Shroud very well. And it's true. It's kind of boring that way, which is why you need to throw some other stuff in. But
yeah,
um, that part's fine. Like she's it's fun playing a guardian, having access to other cards in
yeah,
other classes because you can make more things work together pretty well.
yeah.
And I think your deck too. Like if you didn't hit all of the bless cards
Yeah,
with
I could have made it work. It was just like a bonus on top of it. I think a big thing is that the curse class is seeker. I know people would say rogue does it too, but rogue's whole philosophy for curse is just like put their hands over their ears and go,
yeah,
I can't hear you.
yep,
But guardian and survivor, two classes that are now really good at doing what they need to do, like even in terms of flexing,
mm-hmm,
are the bless cards. So like it makes sense that they would just generally be good at handling what they need to handle compared to us with the seeker where we had to ask the question, how are we killing enemies as a seeker, right? With this it's like how are we killing enemies as a guardian and a survivor? How are we
I
getting
don't know.
clues as a guardian and a survivor, right? Like so
yeah,
there's like a lot different like a of an upfront question we need to answer with these decks.
mm-hmm. Yeah, but and has pretty easy solutions outside of the cards that we were uh, using. So like the only, I mean, there really isn't much other than the cards I removed for like getting clues with bless tokens, right? Guided by Faith,
Mhm.
and then Radiant Smite gets damage done with bless tokens. You didn't even have that, so like you were doing your damage, nothing to do with the bless tokens themselves in the first place, just
Yeah, yeah,
ancestral token as a payoff. Um,
yep, yep.
but I don't know. I mean, I think that there might be. I'm not going to say there's fewer bless cards in the pool, but most of them really are cards that are like this.
Yeah, and then even like you look at like the Blessed Blade up 4,
Mm,
it's not actually a bless card. It's just like an excessive bless and like adder. It doesn't enable bless. It doesn't get better with bless. It's just here's bless tokens. Use them.
that's
Right.
right. Yeah, because this one requires you to get the extra damage via the blessed
Yeah.
token. The upgraded one is just you get +1 damage. End of
Yeah.
story.
And then like we compare that to the cryptic grimoires which we played in curse, which like specifically are a curse payoff. So like that's like I think our blessing of Isis was the card that was, if we were just building around just this, I think it would have been a lot different for
Mhm.
like how blessed tokens matter to us more.
It was a nice bonus, though.
Yes. Oh, 100%, 100%. But it's just like it's like that one's closer to like the cryptic grimoire that we did than everything else, cuz
That's
I'm
right.
pretty convinced we could do another bless run and have the decks be different,
Hmm.
but I don't think I could say the same about curse,
Hmm. Yeah,
which is kind of funny. Yeah.
yeah. Not with those investigators for sure, or even
Yeah.
seekers. I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap things up about here. I had a great time playing with you, Justin. Thanks so much
Yeah,
for joining me again. I can't say the same about the paradoxical run, but we'll.
yeah, well, that
uh,
one might be better off dead.
yeah, there was no. I mean, maybe someday we'll talk about what went wrong there when we talk about paradoxical in general. But I think this was a very successful showing of what blessed decks can do, and maybe there are some things that you might not have thought of, um, and some things that you probably thought of, but just sort of to see them in practice is always good and instructive, I think, for listeners. So
Yeah.
that'll be it. I'll see you next time.